The latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Chicago. It's John Anthony filling in for Dan Proft, host of Black and White Radio, heard every Saturday from 4 to 7 p.m. right here on these airwaves, AM 560, and also in Detroit, Michigan, 92.7 FM and AM 1400, The Answer. I really love once I get my mojo going, when I fill in the morning, I really love being here on with you guys. I mean, the comments in YouTube, man, they are off the charts sometimes when you see the infighting and the Patriots in there standing up, and even little Bob, even though he and I we've tangled, I actually enjoy those type of conversations when we are able to tangle things up, but some people don't, but I do. I love engaging in people who disagree with me. Sorry, I'm just let's just move on to the interview. I just saw some stuff in it. I was like, wow, okay, sounds good to me. Our next guest, Jason M. Brodsky. He's the policy director at United Against Nuclear Iran, and a non-resident scholar at the Middle East Institute's Iran program. He's a widely cited expert on Iranian foreign policy, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and Tehran's nuclear ambition. Brodsky regularly contributes analysis to major outlets and frequently appears on national television discussing Iran's strategy, regional proxies, and U.S. policy responses. His recent column, Who Will Lead Iran Now? What is it doing? It examines the power vacuum created after the death of Iran's supreme leader, an Ayatollah, and explores the fractions completing to control the future of the Islamic Republic. Right now, a temporary leadership council is holding power while the Assembly of Experts, that's an 88 member clerical body who decides who will become the next supreme leader. Will it be his son? We'll talk about that with Jason Brodsky. Jason, you wrote a fascinating piece on this. Let's unpack what may happen next. Welcome to Chicago's Morning Answer.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Now, in your Spectre column, you lay out this uncertainty surrounding Iran's leadership after the death of the supreme leader. For listeners who may not understand the system, how exactly is a new supreme leader chosen? And will we move away from this whole Ayatollah and return back to the Shah?
Well, under the Islamic Republic's constitution, should there be a vacancy in the office of the Supreme Leader, an interim leadership council is impaneled, and that's what we have right now. So the president, that's a triumvirate of three people on that council: the president of Iran, the chief justice of Iran, and a member of its guardian council, which vets state elections. So those are the three members of the Leadership Council. And then the Assembly of Experts, as you noted, is the one that selects the next supreme leader under the Constitution.
One name that's keep coming up is, I hope I say his name, Mujtaba Khamenei. He's the son of the former supreme leader. What makes him such a strong leader? We know being the former leader's son. And how controversial would it be if Iran effectively became a hereditary system?
Well, Mujtaba Khamenei is a blood-stained actor in the Iranian system. He's been long associated with radical currents in Tehran, and he's a dangerous actor. He's been effectively run the office of the Supreme Leader for many, many years, working in the shadows under his father. And he's developed his own patronage network in the military and security apparatus. And so that positions him to be a formidable contender. But he has weaknesses. As you noted, he is the son of the Supreme Leader, and let's not forget that the Islamic Revolution came to power in 1979, overthrowing the monarchy, which had a hereditary element in it, and that would go against what the Islamic Republic was founded on. So that is definitely controversial in the succession process for him. And he also, Mojtaba, does not have the religious credentials that other candidates have for this position.
How influential is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in deciding who becomes the next supreme leader? Because having the military behind you and supporting you, that's important, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I think the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is an important stakeholder in this process. It has several powerful factions that will play an important role in the leadership process, and there are unconfirmed reports that there are the IRGC is pressuring members of the Assembly of Experts to vote for Mojtaba Khamenei to become the next supreme leader. So they are playing an important behind-the-scenes role in succession.
Jason Brodsky, some experts argue, and I know you're an expert on this field, they argue that the IRGC has gradually become the real power in Iran, almost like a military state within a theocracy. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I think that the IRGC is is the most powerful actor in the Islamic Republic. It is this has been a trend that's ongoing for years. It has enormous financial interests in the Islamic Republic. It controls a significant chunk of the economy, at least 40%, and its members are in the most powerful positions in the Islamic Republic. So it definitely is a kingmaker in Iran.
Jason, when President Trump said the ultimate goal is not regime change, but when you wipe out the entire leadership of Iran, that's in effect saying a regime change. Could we see a situation where this Revolutionary Guard effectively controls the leader rather than the other way around?
Well, I think that, yes, this does set up the prospect of there being a weaker supreme leader that is controlled by the IRGC, given what is happening right now in the emergency wartime conditions that are taking place in the country. That tends to securitize the decision-making process, and so I think that does open up a situation where there would be a symbolic weaker supreme leader who is more dependent on the IRGC than Ayatollah Khamenei, the former supreme leader, was.
You know, Kian Tajbash, he was with the foreign ministry. He was on CNN, and he had this to say about how we got here and Obama's role.
What happened with President Obama, I'll just say this very quickly, and I was in the State Department in the 2000s when we implored the Bush administration not to restrict the engagement with Iran simply to the nuclear file. What happened with President Obama is that, for better or worse, and I'm not going to litigate that here, he decided that given the four big problems that have always been on American objectives with Iran, that is enrichment, ballistic missiles, proxies, and democracy inside Iran, that he would put all the last three aside and focus only on the nuclear deal. Now, I'm not going to say that was good or bad. I don't think it was a great idea, but what we have seen, and this is also maybe controversial, and I think a lot of my liberal friends are going to hate me for this.
Don't point to me.
But, okay, I know. I didn't point to
Okay.
Is that, unfortunately, you can draw a straight line from the 2015 nuclear deal to October 7th. Iran...
I'd love to hear that from some administration officials. That leveling with the American people, what you're saying, these thoughtful comments...
Well, I think that what the Trump administration
we do have to go to a break here.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's more on the other side, so hold your thought, because I have some follow-up questions for you.
Jason, is Khan, I think his name is Kian Tajbash, is he correct in his assessment?
I think Kian is correct. I think that the original Iran nuclear deal that was concluded in 2015 was a mistake. He is right to suggest that the U.S. prioritized the nuclear file at the expense of all the other threats that the Islamic Republic poses. Iran is not just a nuclear file, and we have to remember that. And what happened was that deal inhibited the ability of the United States to effectively counter Iran on non-nuclear issues like terrorism, human rights abuses. And so that supercharged the theocracy by giving it sanctions relief, and it enabled them to amass a lot of resources to be able to fund these proxy and partners like Hamas that committed terrorism in the October 7th massacre in Israel.
Now, Jason, your organization, United Against Nuclear Iran, you focus heavily on economic pressure. Do sanctions still work as leverage, or has this regime learned to survive them?
I think sanctions do work as leverage. I think that sanctions first of all, they deprive an adversary of the resources that they would need to build out their weapons programs, to expand their military. It deprived the Islamic Republic of resources that it would have otherwise diverted to terrorist groups around the region. So I think it did work in that respect. And I think that by bringing the Iranian regime to the table, to the negotiating table, it's an example of how sanctions have worked. So I think sanctions are an important toolkit in the U.S. Toolbox, but there are others as well, like military pressure and diplomatic isolation and other measures as well.
You know, when you think about what happened under President Trump, the Arab Spring, and how the Iranian people were begging for former President Barack Obama, and I'm not trying to make this about Democrat, Republican. I'm not trying to make this about. I'm trying to make this about the actions that took place. The Iranian people were begging for action. The same thing happened this time, and President Trump and Bibi Netanyahu delivered on that action. How important was it for President Trump? Because I'm sure for years we're going to have the debate on if this is the right thing to do. Why is America even involved? Why is America fighting an Israeli war? It's not an Israeli war. It's a world. This impacts the entire world. Correct, Jason Brodsky?
Well, I think that this is fundamentally about U.S. interests. Look, I think that President Trump views this as not starting a war, it's concluding a war. The war was started by the Iranian regime in 1979, when some of your listeners will recall that the Iranians seized the U.S. embassy in Tehran and took our diplomats hostage. And by the way, to this day, the Iranian regime still is holding American citizens hostage, and it has tried to kill current and former U.S. government officials, American citizens, on U.S. soil. So this is not a war that the United States started. This is a war that the Iranian regime started in 1979, and I think President Trump views his administration as ending that war by engaging in this Operation Epic Fury.
And Jason, I'm so glad you said that, because I kind of figured you would go there, because when I wrote that question down, I then found this audio from Keon.
2 days ago, yesterday, this morning, I was told we were not at war. Today in the press conference, Pete Hegseth says, "In the war. Are we at war? Are we not at war? Do we want regime change, or do we not?"
The president told the Iranian people in his very first
moment.
You know, I know this may sound controversial, and among my friends, some of them is controversial.
That's okay.
But I think that a lot of commentary is missing, perhaps, the big picture.
I agree.
And there is a big picture here, and perhaps to simplify it, I would put it this way. I don't think it's right to say that President Trump has started a war with Iran. I think President Trump wants to finish a war that Iran started in 1979, 47 years ago. And these aren't just words. Let me just tell you an anecdote. In the 2003-2004, when I was there in Iran working on projects at a very high level, I was talking with deputy ministers, I was talking with, going back and forth, and I was in the foreign ministry in Tehran, where I met someone who was very senior, and he was semi-sympathetic with the projects we were doing. But as I was leaving, he looked me in the eye, and he said, "You as an Iranian American, I want you to know something and listen very carefully." He said, "We in this building," and what he meant is the foreign ministry, which meant representing the government, which means representing the regime. He said, "We believe we are at war with the United States."
There it is, Jason Brodsky. Confirmed.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely. Keon is absolutely correct. And that's what I think Americans don't haven't followed this maybe as extensively as some of us have on a daily basis, but what this has been a pattern of actions and lethal threats against the United States of America. People may not remember this, but in the Iraq War, we had hundreds of American soldiers who were killed or permanently disfigured, their arms blown off, their legs blown off, injuries to their face, burns to their face because of IEDs, improvised explosive devices that the Iranian regime planted and manufactured and gave to its Shia militias in Iraq. So this has been going on since 1979, and the U.S. is settling accounts, and rightfully so.
Well, Jason Brodsky, I definitely want to have you on my show, Black and Right. It's a Saturday show. I don't know if it's from 4 to 7 p.m. I'm definitely going to reach out to see if I can have you on, because I would love to have you on Black and Right Radio.
Okay, thanks so much. It was great joining you.
Yeah, it was the same here. Jason Brodsky. Follow him on X at Jason M. Brodsky. He's the policy director for the United Against Nuclear Iran. Thanks so much for joining us. Chicago's
Thanks so much.
All right.
Okay.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
If you've saved $100,000 or more for retirement, call Steve Shyman today at 833-945-7283. That's 833-WILL-SAVE. 833-WILL-SAVE. Schedule your no-cost, no-obligation retirement review and make sure your plan is built to protect what you've worked so hard to earn.